Hi everyone, it's Katie from Paradise Falls family. In this short video, we'll be continuing our vlog series covering our Mediterranean cruise aboard the Royal Caribbean Oasis of the Seas in June 2024. In our previous videos, which you can already find in this playlist, we talked about our time aboard the ship and our time in Barcelona. In the rest of the series, we'll be covering the ports we visited and the excursions we enjoyed, focusing here on Pisa. As always, we'll give a bit of an overview of the port and city, talk about what we got up to and what the excursion included. Pisa was our first day ashore on this cruise. We'd already had one day at sea and another in Mallorca where we decided to stay on board, and it fell on the third full day of the cruise. When you book the cruise, it's labelled as Pisa/Florence. In reality, the port is some distance from both cities. La Spezia, where you actually dock, is a small city on the coast of Tuscany, but this is quite a large region, so you're actually 2 hours from Florence and over an hour from Pisa, meaning it's not particularly easy to do either. On the plus side, you do get a chunk of time in port, with the gangway going down at 7:30 in the morning and then up again at 8 p.m, so you can have a really fun day if you plan ahead. One option is just to explore on your own. Of course, this is entirely possible to do if you want to rent a car or get a train to explore the surrounding areas. However, with the main options being cities some distance away, we decided we'd rather just book an excursion through Royal Caribbean. The main advantage here being the convenience of it, but also you're assured that the ship isn't going to leave without you if you're delayed. The downside, of course, is that you have a bit less freedom, and these excursions are often quite expensive. If Florence or Pisa had been much closer, we'd probably just have explored on our own for these reasons, but ultimately we decided to go with an excursion on this occasion. As I've already mentioned, Florence and Pisa are the two main options here, both being some distance away. However, there are other things you can see and do slightly nearer to the port. Of course, there is La Spezia itself if you want to just walk off the ship and explore. Then there are excursions to a beach, a Tuscan farmhouse excursion, and several options exploring the Cinque Terre area, which is around an hour north of La Spezia, and it's supposed to be brilliant. In terms of Florence and Pisa, there were loads of options for excursions, different combinations, including visiting both in one day, although I can't really understand how you'd get to see much of both cities in just one day, when you must be spending at least 4 hours travelling to and from and between the cities. Nevertheless, it's an option if you fancy it. Then you've got lots of excursions to choose from if you want to visit either Pisa or Florence. We decided to go for Pisa, given it was the closest and probably the easiest to see in just one day. Florence is somewhere we've wanted to visit for a while, but it probably warrants more than just a day. We know that the main reason to go to Pisa is to see the Leaning Tower. Ideally, we wanted a little bit more time to see a bit more of the city as well. There were loads of different excursions available, most of them half-day trips, which seemed great. Not too long for the kids and enough to see the main sights. We went for the afternoon Pisa City Sights Excursion, which cost £342 for the 4 of us. That way we didn't have to get up early, we could have lunch on the ship and then enjoy an afternoon out. The overview for this excursion says, explore Pisa's rich history as you embark on a scenic river cruise and then ride on a trolley car to see the city's significant landmarks. Voyage along the Arno River as your guide points out notable sights and you relish a tasty Italian gelato. Join a guided tour of Pisa's Field of Miracles via trolley car and behold the famous 12th century Leaning Tower of Pisa bell tower. Enjoy 45 minutes to explore the square independently. This sounded like enough to see the tower, have a look around the main square and then see a bit more of the city on the trolley and boat. Something all 4 of us should enjoy without too much walking for the kids. We booked the excursion around 4 months before sailing and there was a lot of availability then. Nearer the time we noticed the options were more limited, but there were still options available if you booked later on. Our excursion tickets were waiting in our room when we first arrived, and these included instructions on when and where to meet on the day. Our excursion was at 2 p.m, so we were asked to meet in Studio B at 1:45, where you check in and are seated in your group until you're collected and walked off the ship to your coach. Make sure to read the excursion details on the app for tips on what to wear and what to bring with you as well. Our coach trip down to Pisa took just over an hour, with our tour guide giving us lots of information on the way. The coach drops you on the edge of the city, where you then transfer to the trolley, which takes you into the middle of the city. From here, you'll walk to a nearby restaurant where you're given the choice of a small ice cream or a soft drink. It's nice enough and handy for the bathroom, but this actually eats into your time in the city, which isn't what we were expecting, and it means that you rush it down. From here, you're free to go and explore the main square, which is nearby, but we were left with only around 35 minutes. This was a little disappointing, as from the description we expected to have the ice cream on the boat and not during our time in Pisa city centre. With around half an hour to play with, it was just enough time to walk to the main square, see the tower, get some pictures and pop in a couple of shops. There really wasn't time for much more. The square itself, known as the Square of Miracles, is a World Heritage Site and it's beautiful. It includes the Leaning Tower, the cathedral, the ancient cemetery and the baptistry, all separated by beautiful manicured lawns. It's a fantastic space, but it's really crowded, with everybody wanting to get their shots of the tower, including us. With the time available, there wasn't much left to see the other buildings or even think about going into any. So really, we could have done with a couple of hours here in an ideal world. Around the square, there are loads of souvenir shops and cafes, so it's easy to pick up some souvenirs and get some treats or a drink. And Via Santa Maria leads off the square, which is a main street with more on offer. The tower is beautiful and it was great to see. It would have been nice to go up it and explore some of the other buildings if we'd had those extra few hours. On the flip side though, we spoke to somebody else who had booked a full day excursion and they were actually pretty bored with not enough to do to fill their time. Meeting back at the trolley, we were taken down to the riverside, maybe a 5-minute ride. This was the extent of the trolley tour, so again this felt a little light compared to what we were expecting. It was more of a convenient mode of transportation rather than an actual tour. The riverside was only a few minutes away and we were transferred onto our boat for a cruise down the River Arno. The boat was comfortable, plenty of seating and open windows with a bathroom on board. The first few minutes were nice enough within the city, but you quickly leave the city and then you're just sailing through the countryside for the majority of the cruise. You do get commentary the whole way, but to be honest, it did get a bit boring, particularly for the kids. In the end, it felt again like a more convenient way to transport us back out of the city more than anything else, and not what we'd really expected. You dock further up the river and then it's a short walk to the coach before the drive back to the port. Overall, we were probably a little bit underwhelmed with this excursion. It didn't quite live up to our expectations. The trolley tour was short and more of a shuttle than anything else. The boat trip was underwhelming and a little bit dull with not a lot to see, and then the ice cream was crammed into our time in the city. For the convenience and to tick off seeing the famous Leaning Tower of Pisa, I didn't feel too bad for the price that we paid. It only took half a day and it was very easy, so if that's all you want, then this would be great. I think if we were to do it again, we'd pick a different excursion, one without the cruise and trolley. Something to just get us into the city and leave us with more free time. The problem we found with booking the excursions though was that the descriptions were quite vague and didn't really specify how long you'd get in the city. However, if you allow for just over an hour of travel each way, you can roughly work it out. The Pisa on your own excursion probably looks better with hindsight, as it has the same duration of 4.5 hours but gives you more free time in the city itself. So that covers our time in Pisa, and hopefully this was useful for your visit. If there's anything at all you want to know, then please just message us in the comments below. Over the next few weeks, we'll continue looking at our shore days and excursions, including Rome and Naples, so make sure to subscribe to our channel to catch that and to support the channel. It really does make a huge difference. Thank you all so much for watching.